128 years later, they had waded onto the sands of Morocco in November 1942, splashed ashore in Sicily the following July, and in September 1943 passed through the newly won Salerno beachhead in Italy towards Monte Cassino. January 1944 saw the 3 battalions of the 7th Infantry, more than 3,000 GIs, assault the port of Anzio. It was at Anzio that their German opponents first labelled everyone in the US 3rd Infantry Division, cotton balers included, the Blue and White Devils, after the distinct diagonal stripes all wore on their helmets and uniform sleeves. This was their second nickname, for the 3rd Division were also known as the Rock of the Marne after their combat service in France during 1918. The 3rd prided themselves on being Eisenhower's favourite division, not least because Ike had commanded one of their battalions before serving as their Chief of Staff in late 1940. The cotton balers' next amphibious landing had seen them arrive on the French Riviera in August 1944 and fight their way to the German frontier. Following 188 days of continuous operations, latterly in the Colmar pocket of France, on the 18th of February 1945, exhausted cotton balers, commanded by German-born Colonel John A. Heinkes, were pulled out of the line to rest and absorb replacements. Now they were returning to the fray, attacking 15 miles east of Saarbrücken in the middle of German-held terrain known as the Saar-Palatinate Triangle. They spent a couple of weeks in March training for village and street fighting, including night operations, then teamed up with other divisions as the 7th Army's spearhead to punch their way through the Siegfried Line. Before Swanson and the rest started out, their divisional commander, Major General John Iron Mike O'Daniel, gave them all a pep talk about the opposition ahead. Their mission, he told the cotton balers, was part of a larger divisional operation called Earthquake. Friendly troops would be to their right and left. However, he warned them, the Germans were waiting, determined to defend their homeland at all costs. O'Daniel ordered that gas masks with protective eye ointment must be carried. Staff Sergeant Eldon Berthiaume, a former military policeman assigned to Company G, recalled the anxiety that caused many to skip their meals that afternoon. At 6 in the evening, the men of the 7th Infantry started out in the dark towards their objective. The ground was unforgiving caramel. Every step was agony, remembered one, as GIs wrestled their boots out of the mud. We were sweating like pigs, and when we stopped, the sweat froze on us. In many ways, Utweiler resembled the French village of Port-Neuilly-Chétif, a southern suburb of Metz, which the cotton balers had just left, where the 7th Infantry had trained with demolitions, grenades, rocket launchers and flamethrowers, and worked with tanks and tracked tank destroyers. As a result, the Americans considered themselves expert at night fighting. At 1 in the morning on the 15th, Captain Swanson's Fox Company led the way, followed by Easy and George, advancing downhill in the half-light. Searchlights bounced their beams off clouds to create artificial moonlight, a tactic borrowed from the British. All was quiet, with the Germans either absent or asleep. Ben Loop, carrying a BAR, Browning automatic rifle, with 1st Platoon, recalled their orders were to follow the white tape placed by another unit through a minefield. A mile short of Utweiler, Loop observed, the officer who was supposed to lead us through the mines pointed out the engineer's tape to Captain Swanson and took off for the rear. Swanson led, followed by his radio operator, my squad scout, then myself and my assistant BAR man. After 20 yards or so, the tape ended. The captain looked around for more, found none, and assumed no more tape equaled no more mines. 10 yards later, Loop recalled, Swanson's radio operator set off a bouncing mine that killed him and destroyed the radio on his back. Almost simultaneously, there were 2 other explosions farther back in my squad. Swanson immediately gave us the order to stop in our tracks, to not move our feet, and gently feel around where we were standing. If we felt nothing, lie prone. As his men groped blindly in the freezing mud and clotted leaves, the captain sent a runner back to Battalion HQ, alerting them to his predicament, but now had no wireless communications. Flares soared into the sky, and tracers stabbed the dark. The noise had alerted their opponents, who deluged the GIs with anti-aircraft fire in flat trajectory, machine guns and mortars. At this juncture, Loop was wounded in the cheek by a shell fragment and told to make his way back to the battalion aid station for treatment. Rifleman George Corpus, in action for the first time, saw what happened next. A shell landed next to his captain. Earl Swanson, the veteran...